On the far edge of the galaxy, there was a quiet desert planet called Arvanus. The sky was orange during the day and purple at night. Winds carried dust across empty lands, and in the middle of the desert, there stood something ancient, something not from this world. It was a massive spaceship, half buried in sand. It had no name, no markings, and no one knew who made it. Aliens from many planets had tried to enter it. They brought scientists, engineers, even weapons, but the ship never opened, never moved. It just sat there, silent, waiting. A young alien girl named Zyra stood near the ship every day. She was only 17 cycles old, but she was chosen to be a guardian. Zyra had long silver hair and eyes that glowed green in the dark. She was trained to fight, to protect, and to follow orders. The elders told her, "Guard the ship. Never let anyone touch it," but they never told her why. Zyra had so many questions. Why was the ship important? Why did it hum during the night, like it was dreaming? No one gave her answers. Zyra spent her days walking around the ship. She knew every scratch on its dark surface. Every time she touched it, nothing happened. It was cold and quiet, like a dead thing. Then one day everything changed. A loud sound came from the sky. Zyra looked up and saw fire falling from above. A small spaceship was crashing fast. It hit the desert floor a few miles away. Smoke rising into the air, Zyra jumped on her glider and flew toward the crash. When she reached the broken ship, she saw a creature inside. He was different from anyone she had seen. He had soft skin, brown hair, and wore a suit burned from the fire. He was a human. Zyra had never seen a human before. She only heard stories that they were wild, emotional, and weak. But this one was still breathing even after the crash. She pulled him from the wreckage and tied his hands. She brought him back to the hangar near the ancient ship. She didn't know what to do next. The human's name was Jaden. He woke up slowly. Pain in his body, sand on his face. Zyra stood over him. Her spear pointed at his chest. "Who are you?" she asked. Jaden looked around, confused. He said, I don't know where I am." Zyra didn't trust him, but something about him felt different. He wasn't afraid. He didn't beg or shout. He just stared at the ship through the open doors. Then, without warning, he stood up and walked toward the ship. "Stop," Zyra shouted. "You can't touch it." But Jaden didn't listen. He was drawn to it. Like something was calling him, Zyra ran after him, but before she could stop him, Jaden placed his hand on a glowing orb near the entrance of the ship. And then everything changed. The orb lit up bright blue. The ground shook gently beneath their feet. The ship made a low, deep sound. Like a giant waking from sleep, Zyra stepped back in shock. This had never happened before. Lights appeared. Along the surface of the ship, old metal panels started to move. Dust flew into the air, and energy hummed around them. The ship was alive again. And Jaden was the reason. Zyra could not believe her eyes. She whispered, "How? How'd you do that?" Jaden turned to her, confused and amazed. "I don't know," he said. "It felt like it knew me." Alarms went off in Zyra's communicator. Guards were on their way. If they saw this, they would take Jaden, maybe. "Kill him!" Zyra looked at the human, then back at the ship. Something inside her said this was not an accident. Jaden was not just a human. He was the key. The ship had waited a long time for someone like him, and now it was awake. The real story was about to begin. The ship was alive. For the first time in centuries, its engines whispered under the ground. Lights ran across its skin like rivers of stars. Inside, old systems began to blink, turning themselves on, but no one knew what it wanted or why it chose him. Zyra stood frozen, eyes wide, heart racing. This human, Jaden, a stranger from a broken world, had touched the ancient orb and awakened the forbidden ship. And now, the ship responded only to him. Jaden looked around, trying to understand what he had done. "I didn't mean to do anything," he said. But the ship was already opening its doors, slowly, silently. A large ramp slid down from the side. Inside was darkness, deep, cold, and endless. Zyra stepped back. "You shouldn't go in there," Jaden turned to her, "but it opened for me." Zira had trained her whole life to protect this ship. Now it was doing things no one had ever seen. And somehow, she couldn't bring herself to stop him. They entered together. The air inside felt different. Like time didn't move the same way. The walls were smooth metal, black but glowing with faint blue veins. Symbols floated across the walls, not written, but alive. They changed when Jaden looked at them. Zyra had studied alien tech all her life, but this was beyond anything she had seen. She reached out to touch a symbol. It faded away. Jaden tried, and it lit up. He looked at her, confused. I don't know what I'm doing. Zyra stared at him. That's the problem. As they moved deeper, the lights turned on by themselves. The ship felt like it was watching them, like it was thinking that it happened. Jaden touched a glowing panel suddenly. Images exploded into the air, floating lights forming shapes. Zyra gasped. They were visions planets, stars, battles, and strange machines. In the center of it all was a symbol one Zyra had seen before. It was the mark of the ancients, the lost race who disappeared thousands of years ago. No one had found real proof they existed until now. Jaden reached out, and a shape formed in front of him, a map. But the map didn't show stars Zyra recognized. They were different, older, distant. Where is this? She asked. Jaden whispered, I think. I've seen this before. Zyra turned to him. That's not possible. Jaden held his head. He was shaking, sweating. I've dreamed this place, he said, since I was a kid. Then came the sound, a deep hum, like a voice inside metal. The ship spoke, not with words, but with feelings. It sent a message into Jaden's mind. Pulse of memory, pain, and light. Jaden dropped to the floor, his eyes wide open. Zyra ran too. Him, what's wrong? Gasped the ship. It remembers me. Zyra shook her head. That's not possible. You're human. Jaden looked up. Am I? Alarms rang outside. The alien guards were coming. Zyra stood up. They'll take you if they see this. Jaden stood slowly. Then we don't let them. The ship seemed to agree. The walls shifted, showing a hidden path. Zyra hesitated, then nodded. They followed the passage deep into the ship as they walked. Zyra thought about everything she had believed. The ship was sacred, dangerous, untouchable. But now, she wondered, had they been guarding a weapon or a doorway? Jaden didn't speak. He felt something pulling him forward. Each step brought back flashes, voices he didn't know, faces he couldn't name. But one thing was clear. This ship wasn't built by aliens. It was built by something connected. To him, they reached a chamber, round and silent. In the center was a seat. Shaped like it was made for a human, Jaden walked toward it. Zyra tried to stop him. Wait. We don't know what it does. Jaden turned, I think. I was meant to sit here. He placed his hand on the armrest. The ship lit up again, brighter than before. The entire planet felt the vibration, high above. The Alien Council received a signal the ship had activated. They were afraid. They sent a command, capture the human or destroy the ship inside. Zyra heard the message in her earpiece. She looked at Jaden, glowing with light. Something inside her whispered, if you want the truth, protect him. The ship opened its wings. Engines that hadn't worked in 1,000 years began to breathe fire. And in the dark sky above, enemies were already coming. But for the first time, the ship had a pilot. And his name was Jaden. The sky above planet Arvinus had never looked darker. Storm clouds circled like wolves around fire. The ancient ship had awakened, and the galaxy was listening high above the planet's orbit. An alien warship received the signal. It was massive. Shaped like a black arrowhead, sharp and deadly, inside it stood General Kroll, commander of the Oral Dominion. Stared at the glowing screen, eyes like frozen metal. The Forbidden One has touched the core, he growled. Send the hunters now. On the surface, the ancient ship began to rise. Its engines hummed like a song remembered after 1,000 years. Dust lifted from the ground, energy cracked. In the air, Jaden sat in the pilot's seat, but he wasn't controlling the ship. It was flying itself as if showing him the way. Zyra held the rail beside him, her eyes locked on the controls. This shouldn't be possible, she whispered. No one can fly it, not even our elders. Jaden didn't answer. He couldn't. His mind was filled with visions. He saw flashes, a glowing city floating in space, humans wearing robes, machines speaking in strange voices. Were they memories? Dreams? Or something the ship wanted him to see? Far behind them, the alien guards from the capital chased on hovercrafts. They fired stun blasts toward the ship. But the energy bounced off the hull like raindrops on steel. Zyra looked at Jaden. They'll call for backup. Real weapons. Warships. Jaden's hands gripped the seat. Then we need to get out of here. The ship heard him. In 1 second, they crossed the desert, the mountains, and the edge of the sky in space. The stars welcomed them, but danger was already waiting. 3 Oral Dominion ships jumped out of warp, sleek, silver, and deadly. They locked onto the ancient ship. Its unidentified vessel, one captain said, "Shut down and prepare to be boarded." Jaden looked at Zyra. "What do we do?" Zyra tried to speak, but the ship answered first. Panels opened in front of Jaden,
How?
revealing strange, glowing symbols. His fingers moved on their own. He wasn't reading them. He was feeling them. The ship fired a beam of light, not a weapon, but a pulse. The enemy ship spun out of control, losing power. Zyra gasped. "You disabled them without hurting them." Jaden blinked. "I didn't even know what I pressed." Suddenly the ship turned itself toward deep space. A voice echoed inside Jaden's mind. Clear this time. Go to the forgotten planet, it said. Find the heart of the core. Zyra felt the ship changing direction. She opened a star map. We're headed toward the ancient zone, the one marked dead. Jaden nodded slowly. Maybe that's where the truth is. But in the shadows of space, someone else was watching on a hidden moon. An old being sat inside a crystal chamber. He had no name anymore, only a title, the Warden. He had been waiting for this day. The return of the pilot, the awakening of the weapon. He opened a black orb, and inside it was a piece of the same metal as the ancient ship. "It has begun," he whispered. "The human has returned." Back on the ship, Jaden felt cold, not around him, inside his soul. A memory rose again, stronger this time. He saw a child running through a burning space station, voices screaming, machines falling, and in the center, the ancient ship, waiting in silence. Zyra noticed his face. "Are you okay?" Jaden looked at her. "I think I've been here before, not just in dreams." Zyra stepped closer. "That's impossible." Jaden touched the wall beside him. The ship pulsed with light, like it agreed with him, before they could say. More alarms blared again. Enemy ships had regrouped, this time with weapons charged. Missiles fired through space, heading straight for them. Jaden shouted, "Hold on!" The ship moved like a shadow, slipping between the attacks Zyra had. Never flown like this or seen anyone who could. The ship wasn't just fast, it was alive, and it wanted to protect them. But for how long? The Oral Dominion would not stop, and soon the other races would join the hunt. Because Jaden wasn't just flying the ship, he was bonded to it. And the galaxy would fear what that meant. Enemies were rising, the past was returning, and the war that ended long ago was beginning again. Asterisk space stretched in all directions, dark and endless, but Jaden was not afraid, not anymore. The ancient ship moved like it remembered every star, every planet, every silence. It had no name in the current language, but in the past, it was called Varian, the living ark. Zyra watched Jaden from the co-pilot seat. He no longer looked like a lost pilot. He looked like someone waking up from a long sleep each hour. Inside the ship changed him. He walked its halls without fear, touched the controls without asking, and the ship obeyed. They were heading toward a planet lost on most maps, dark, broken, forgotten. The ship called it Daros, the place where the ancients vanished. Jaden spoke softly. "Why do I feel like I've been here before?" Zyra answered carefully. "Because you're not just flying this ship. You're unlocking it." He looked at her, confused. She continued. "The ancients were older than any race in the galaxy. Some say they made the first starships, but no one ever proved it." Jaden leaned back, eyes distant. I used to draw this ship as a child, he said. My father thought it was from a story, but I never read about it. Zyra looked down, thinking, what if? Your blood carries something from them. Jaden laughed quietly, like I'm part alien. She didn't smile. I'm serious, she said. The ship only moves for you. It speaks to you. Jaden stood up and walked to the glowing map panel. He placed his hand on it, and the image shifted. A structure appeared, an ancient temple hidden in the ruins of Deros. Underneath it pulsed a red circle, beating like a heart, the core. The ship whispered in his mind. Jaden blinked. The ship wants me to take something. Zyra frowned, or give something back. Moments later, they landed in the shadows of a broken world.
Oh, yes.
The planet was cold, silent, and covered in black stone ruins stretched across the ground like bones of giants. The temple stood tall in the distance, cracked. But not fallen, they walked side by side into the darkness. Strange writing glowed on the walls, not made with light, but memory. Jaden could read it, even if he didn't understand how. One word echoed everywhere. Origin. They reached the center. Chamber in the middle floated a crystal sphere, glowing. Spinning slowly, Zir stepped back. That's a memory core? Jaden asked. What? It stores ancient thoughts, she said, but no one can read it. Not without a key. Jaden stepped forward. As his hand touched the sphere, the temple came alive. The walls shimmered, the air vibrated, and the past returned. Images poured into his mind, stars being born, machines building worlds, humans and aliens working together in peace, and then war, betrayal, fire. A great explosion split the galaxy, and the ancients hid their knowledge, hoping someone worthy would return. Jaden fell to his knees. Zira rushed to him. Jaden looked at her, his eyes glowing faintly with the ship's light. They left something inside me. They called it the human key. Before they could speak again, the ground shook from above. Enemy dropships arrived. The Oral Dominion had tracked them. Troops landed, weapons ready, seized the pilot. Their leader shouted, and destroy the alien girl. Zira raised her spear, her body shaking. Jaden stood beside her, calm but burning inside. No, he said, we're not running. The ship sent a signal, and the walls of the temple reacted. Ancient defense systems activated, quiet and powerful. Blades of light formed in the air. Shields rose from the ground. The enemies opened fire. But the temple blocked every shot. Jaden grabbed Zyra's hand. We're leaving now. They ran back toward the ship, energy flashing around them. The ship opened its ramp without being called as soon as they stepped in. It lifted into the sky like it had waited centuries for this moment. From above, Zyra looked down at the burning ruins. She turned to Jaden. What are you? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, I think I'm a question, and this ship is the answer. The stars outside shimmered as Varian moved into hyperspace. They were not just running now, they were following a path, one written. In Jaden's blood, and somewhere in the dark, the galaxy had begun to whisper. The key has returned, and nothing will ever be the same. In the cold silence of space, the ship moved like a ghost. It did not follow any known path. It followed memory. Jaden stood in the central chamber of Varian, the ancient ship that had chosen him. He was not touching the controls, but the ship responded to his thoughts. It turned, shifted, and accelerated like it could hear his heart. Zira watched him quietly. He looked more human than ever, and yet something about him had changed since the memory core on Deros. His eyes were different, sharper, deeper, like he had seen things no one else could. Where are we going? She asked. Jaden looked at the stars outside the glass. I don't know the name, said, but the ship does. He placed his hand on the control ring. A map appeared, old, broken, and incomplete. But one part pulsed with light. The ship spoke, not with sound, but through feeling. Destination, Planet 9 Tau. Last memory of the first link, Zyra stepped closer, her voice soft. Planet 9 Tau. That world was erased from the star charts. Jaden nodded slowly. That's because someone wanted it forgotten. Within minutes, the ship exited hyperspace outside. The planet floated in silence, covered in ash and ruins, no cities, no lights, no signs of life, only shadows. They landed gently near what looked like an old research base. Metal buildings half buried in gray sand, dead machines frozen in time. Jaden stepped outside first. The air was thin but breathable. The ground cracked beneath his boots. Zira followed, scanning the area. Radiation low, no life detected. She said. Jaden said nothing. He walked toward a broken tower. It looked like it had been hit by something powerful. Maybe long ago, maybe recently. On its wall, half covered by dust, was a symbol. Zira's eyes widened. That's the same symbol from the temple, she whispered. Jaden touched it gently. As soon as his fingers made contact, a panel opened in the ground beside them. They looked at each other, then climbed down. Below was a chamber untouched by time. Its lights flickered weakly, its air cold but clean. And in the center stood something strange. A cradle. But not for a baby. It was shaped like a capsule. With wires and glowing lines all around it, Jaden stepped closer, his chest tight. I've seen this before, he said in a dream. Or a memory. Zira activated the nearby console. An old recording played, its voice cracked and weak. This is Dr. Ellen Mora of the Tau Project, the voice said. We have activated the prototype. The subject is stable, human. But carrying the genetic key, Zira looked at Jaden, shocked. Is this? About you. Jaden didn't answer. He stepped into the cradle, and it lit up in blue. The recording continued. If the project fails, he must be sent away. Earth coordinates locked. He will be the final attempt to preserve the link. The message ended. Silence filled the room. Jaden turned slowly. They made me, he said. Or saved me. I don't know which. Zira stepped forward. You were born in a lab? Jaden shook his head. I was raised by a family on Earth. But this place knew my name before I did. Suddenly the chamber shook. Explosions rumbled above them. Zira's communicator beeped rapidly. Oral Dominion ships have entered orbit, she said. They're scanning for life. Jaden stepped out of the cradle. We need to go. As they climbed back to the surface, Zira asked, why come here? What was the point? Jaden looked at the ruins. To show me what I am, he said, and what they're afraid of, back on the ship. The engines powered up instantly as they lifted off. Laser fire rained down from orbit, but Varian was faster, smarter, alive. Inside, the ship showed Jaden a new message. Not words, but symbols. He understood them without reading. A location, far away, hidden behind stars. The final archive. Zira stepped beside him. Are you okay? Jaden looked calm. I don't think I was ever meant to live an ordinary life. Zira nodded. You still can't remember everything. Jaden looked at her. No, he said, but I'm starting to understand why they want to stop. Me outside? The Dominion fleet chased them across the sky. But something had changed. Jaden wasn't just running anymore. He was searching not for who he was, but for who he was made to become, and far ahead. The final archive waited, holding answers the galaxy was never meant to find. Asterisk, the stars burned brighter. As if the galaxy knew what was coming. Deep in the void, warships moved like sharks in dark water. The Oral Dominion was no longer just hunting. Now, it was preparing to strike, inside Varian. Jaden stood at the ship's heart. A soft light circled him. Touching his skin like wind touches fire, the ship was speaking again. Faster, louder, more clearly than before. Not in words, but through symbols and visions. It was waking up completely. Zira walked in, her armor half damaged from the last escape. She looked at Jaden and said, There's a message from the council. They've placed a bounty on your name. Jaden smiled without joy. Guess I'm famous now. She stepped closer. More serious this time. They're calling you a threat to the galaxy? Jaden nodded slowly. Maybe I am, he said, but I didn't start this. The ship turned toward its next destination, the edge of the system. There, hidden behind the rings of a dead gas giant, floated a station made of crystal and steel, the final archive. A place built by the ancients to store what must never be forgotten. As Varian approached, the station responded. Doors opened without a sound. Jaden and Zyra stepped inside, their weapons drawn. They didn't know what to expect, knowledge, traps, or worse, but what they found was silence. Rows and rows of memory crystals, each one glowing faintly. Zyra reached for one. It showed a memory, not hers, but someone else's. A battle. Humans and ancients fighting side by side against the Dominion's early ancestors, weapons made of thought and sound, worlds falling, worlds rising. Jaden stepped into the center chamber. There, in a circle of light, a message waited. When he touched it, a voice filled the room. "Welcome, human key. You are the last spark of the first flame." Zyra turned slowly, eyes wide. "What does that mean?" Jaden's hand shook, "I think I'm not just connected to the ancients. I might be one of them, or something they left behind," the voice continued. "Your blood carries the code to unlock what was sealed. Use it wisely, or all light will fade before they could ask more." Alarms blared through the archive outside. A fleet had arrived, not just the Dominion, but several other factions. They had allied, out of fear. Fear of Jaden, fear of Varian, in space. Dozens of ships formed a wall of fire and steel. Their leaders sent a final warning. Surrender the human, shut down the ship, or be erased. Jaden looked at Zyra. She didn't speak, but her hand gripped his tightly. He turned to the ship. "Then we fight." Varian roared like a storm. Its wings unfolded fully for the first time. Panels opened across its surface, revealing weapons older than war itself. But Jaden didn't press buttons, he thought, and the ship answered. It moved like a comet, dodging blasts, returning fire. It didn't just shoot, it disabled, confused, and outsmarted its enemies. Zyra controlled the shields, shouting over the noise. Left flank charging plasma. Jaden nodded. "I see it." One enemy ship broke through, fast and angry. It launched boarding pods toward the archive. Zyra shouted, "They're going after the core." Jaden's voice turned sharp. "Not today." He guided Varian between the pods and the station. The ship created a barrier of light, a firewall in space. Pods exploded before landing. But the battle wasn't over. A shadow appeared in the distance, massive, ancient, and unknown. It was not Dominion. It was something else. The ship whispered one word to Jaden. Warden. Zyra looked up. "What is that?" Jaden replied, "The one who locked the truth away. Now he's come to destroy it." The Warden ship didn't fire. It absorbed energy instead. Lasers bent around it. Missiles stopped midair. It moved like a ghost that couldn't be touched. Jaden closed his eyes. He felt the ship's power in his blood.
Oh.
It was more than tech. It was alive. He reached deep inside, and the ship responded. A final weapon unlocked, one used only once in the old wars. A pulse of memory. So strong, it erased machines from the inside. "Are you sure?" Zyra asked. Jaden nodded. "It's the only way." The ship released the pulse, silent and invisible. But deadly Dominion ships shut down instantly. Their weapons faded. Their lights dimmed. Even the Warden's vessel stopped, frozen in place, but the cost was high. Varian dimmed too, its energy flickering. Jaden fell to one knee, blood at his nose. Zyra caught him. "You're burning up." "I'm fine," he whispered. But inside he knew something had changed. The ship had given him power, and now it had taken part of him back. The war was not over, but the galaxy had seen what the human could do. And fear had turned to panic. What comes next? Would change everything? The battlefield had gone quiet. Stars burned softly in the distance. As if holding their breath, the great enemy fleet had been silenced by Varian's pulse. Ships drifted like broken leaves, powerless and dark. But inside the ship, another battle was still being fought. Jaden lay on the floor of the control chamber. His breath shallow, his skin pale. The ancient ship had given him its full power, and now it was taking something in return. Zyra knelt beside him, her hands shaking. "You can't leave now," she whispered. "Not when we've come this far." The ship's walls glowed dimly. Its voice was softer than before, like it was morning. Jaden's eyes opened slowly. He smiled at Zyra. "Still here," he said. "Barely, Zyra helped him sit up. You pushed too hard. Jaden nodded. It was the only way to stop. Them, outside, the warden's vessel floated in silence. Its hull cracked, its core frozen in time, but it wasn't gone, not yet. Jaden stood slowly, holding the railing. The warden didn't come to win, he said. He came to end the game. The ship showed them a new vision, not a battle, but a seed, a sphere hidden deep beneath the archive. It pulsed with energy unlike anything they had seen. The Genesis core, Zyra said, recognizing it from legends. A power strong enough to rewrite matter. Jaden looked into the image. The warden wanted to destroy it. If he had, every ancient memory, every truth would be lost forever. They flew the ship beneath the archive. Down to the planet's hidden lair, there in a chamber of crystal and steel, floated the Genesis core. It was alive. It was waiting as Jaden stepped near. A voice echoed in his mind. You carry the final code. You must decide rebirth or silence. Zyra stood behind him. What's it saying? Jaden turned to her. It wants me to make a choice. Zyra's voice shook. What kind of choice? Jaden looked at the core. If I link with it, the ancient knowledge returns. Worlds will rise. Minds will evolve. The galaxy will change, but I won't survive. Zyra froze. No, she said, there has to be another way. Jaden smiled gently. There never was. Zyra stepped forward. You don't have to fix what they broke. Jaden looked at her. But I was made for this. She grabbed his arm, tears in her eyes. I didn't come this far just to watch you disappear. I didn't choose you to lose you. Jaden looked at her for a long moment. Then he whispered, You didn't choose me. The ship did. She shook her head. No, she said, it started with the ship, but now it's you I believe in. Jaden turned back to the core. The ship surrounded him in light. It knew what was coming, and it was ready to say goodbye. Zyra's voice broke. If you do this, what's left of you? Jaden smiled. Only everything I leave behind. He stepped into the light. The core opened like a flower, and Jaden disappeared. The energy surged across the station. It didn't explode. It bloomed. The lights of 1,000 forgotten. Stars blinked back on. Memories flooded back into the galaxy. Truths long hidden rose like mountains from the sea. On distant planets, ancient ships awoke. Forgotten knowledge returned to the minds of their makers, and the fear that once ruled the stars cracked open. Inside, Varian Zyra stood alone, but she wasn't broken. The ship pulsed softly. A part of Jaden still remained. His thoughts, his choices, his hope burned into the walls, into the light. The ship had not lost its pilot. It had become him. Zyra touched the controls. For the first time, they responded to her. Not because she was chosen by the ancients, but because she had chosen to believe. She looked out at the stars. The war was over, but a new story was just beginning. A story not of fear, but of rebirth. A galaxy no longer ruled by silence, but by the voice of one human who made the final choice. The voice of Jaden, the human key.